Our scripture for Ash Wednesday is Genesis chapter 3, verse 19. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, until you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Now, that passage is taken from God monologuing to Adam and Eve about their punishment for eating the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden. And along with discovering fears of shame and along with discovering their pain and turning mortal, God tells them they will have to labor and toil for their food, that by the sweat of their face they will have to make their bread. Now, do you remember when COVID lockdown began? When we were all looking for ways to pass the time inside our homes, the sourdough craze started. It seemed like everyone was making sourdough starters and perfecting their bread baking skills, and people were slowing down and they were avoiding crowded grocery stores and markets. And it was, one part of the pandemic that seemed to bring people a little joy. It seemed to inspire creativity and inspire people to build new skill sets. And while many people have certainly continued their baking and have sourdough starters alive and well in their kitchens, the vast majority of people, I think, have found themselves back giving in to the temptations and easy comforts of convenience. There is, I think, a blessing in what people call the curse of Adam and Eve, a blessing in the supposed punishment for humanity's recklessness. But thanks to our own human ingenuity and perceived need for convenience and immediate availability, our unnatural drive to have everything at our fingertips when we want it, the blessing of this alleged curse has been lost. But as Kendall Vanderslice, the founder of the Edible Theology Project, writes, the first mention of bread in Scripture comes alongside these statements about the curse. Since the beginning, bread has been a blessing from God offered to humanity, even in the face of a broken creation. It is thanks to this toil and this labor that we may sit for a moment and enjoy something that has been fermented, mixed, kneaded, risen, and baked thanks to our own hands. It is thanks to this labor that we have a moment to stop and taste the ingredients mixed together by our endlessly creative Creator, and to relish both the rest and the miracles of our hands and God's creation. For just a moment in time, we are able to savor the bread with some salted butter, some infused olive oil, or a sunny egg, dripping its yolk all over our tired hands. For a moment in time, in between the toil, we get a moment to appreciate what we have been given in the midst of brokenness. We are able to experience moments of peace in the midst of a storm. We are able to experience joy in the midst of mourning. It is easy to forget that we can find the peace in the storm when we don't think about where our food comes from, when we no longer take the time to sew our clothes or even mend them, when we no longer wait with bated breath for a letter from a loved one across the country, when we don't have to wait for tomorrow's newspaper to know what happened overnight in our town or even across the world. It's easy to just always be caught up in the storm when everything, every piece of news, every new trend, every piece of food, every new crisis is just thrown at us nonstop. So I wonder if for Lent this year, as we ponder temporality and our own mortality, our own fleeting time on this strange and beautiful planet, if we can slow down. I wonder if during Lent and hopefully beyond, we can take the time to savor the good as we confess that we are far too tempted by convenience to take in what is truly important in this world. Now, this Sunday in church, for the first Sunday in Lent, we will hear about Jesus being tempted in the desert and when the devil encourages him to turn the stones that surround him into bread with his God-given powers. Jesus quotes Deuteronomy saying, "One does not live by bread alone." One does not. Because we are given both the work and the blessing of baking bread, of savoring the toil, the time, and at long last, the taste and the sustenance. So love and appreciate the sweat of your face that it takes to make something, that it takes to understand the science of something and the blessing of something, in spite of our short time on this planet, or rather, because of our short time on this planet. We don't have much time. And so we will slow down and really understand and think deeply about this world and how it works and how strong our patience and our faith must be in it. So for this Lent, we will slow down and recognize what really matters. Amen.